Hi, I'm Amy Romeo of Amy Romeo Crafts, and in this video I'll be showing you how to make these initial ornaments for your Christmas tree using faux leather and a Cricut. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started. The SVG file for this project is available in my shop. It's part of my holiday faux leather crafting event where I'm sharing a brand new holiday SVG and video tutorial every day for 20 days. I'll leave a link on the screen for you so you can get the SVG, or you can visit amyromeo.com/holiday to see all of the event's designs. Let's go over the tools and materials I'll be using to make this project. Now I'll be using the Cricut Maker today, but you could use any of the current Cricut machines because I cut faux leather with the standard fine point blade that's included with all of the machines. I'll be using a purple strong grip cutting mat to cut the faux leather. If you're using either of the Joy machines, the green Joy size mats will work just fine. The faux leather that I'm using are some pretty buffalo plaids, perfect for the holidays. These come in sheets. You can also use faux leather that comes on rolls, solids, different prints. It's really up to you. I'll be using a weeding tool to help me check my cut before I unload my mat, some blue painter's tape to help me keep that faux leather really secure on the purple mat, and then I like to have a couple scissors on hand, regular craft scissors for cutting the faux leather, and then also these detailed scissors. This is great for trimming up edges of faux leather that might have any fuzzies. You could also use embroidery scissors. We'll be using some glue to glue the faux leather ornaments together. I'll be using some Fabri-Tac, but you could also use any good fabric glue or barely art glue. And then some optional things. We could add some vinyl with a name if you wanted to. So this is just regular heat transfer vinyl in a contrasting color. Also optional, but nice, is some color coordinated Sharpie markers. This will help us color up the edges of the faux leather so they aren't as obvious on the edge of the ornament. And then we have some ribbon to tie up our ornament. And then if we wanted to add a little detail like a floral pick, I'm going to use some glue for that. I'm going to use this Stick Fast Thick, which I love for faux leather and also for gluing little details. It's very similar to a super glue, but you could also use hot glue if you wanted to. If you're using these floral picks that have the wire stems, I recommend having a pair of pliers on hand so you don't mess up your scissors because we will be trimming off the wire stem. So let's go ahead and hop into Design Space and I'll show you how to cut out our shapes and assemble the ornaments. So starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG files are for this project. I've grouped the letters for you onto 3 different files. So click the letter grouping that you want to start with and click on Open. And you'll see the letters appear here in a preview. Click Upload. And that will bring them here into your recent uploads row. Click on the letter grouping again and then click Add to Canvas. This will bring all of the letters onto our canvas. The first thing I want to do is ungroup the letters so that I can select only the letters I want to cut right now. So delete all of the other letters off of your canvas. So I'm left with the S here, but this is the front of the S, so I also need a back. So I will click on Duplicate. And then I will also click on Flip to create a mirrored image. So we have a front and a back to our ornament that we will glue together. Now you could customize this initial ornament with a name, and I just wanted to show you quickly a few ways you can do that. So you can click on the text tool, and Design Space will give you some default text. You can type your desired name. This is the Cricut Sans font, but you could also click up here on the font selector and you could choose a different font if you have access, or a font that is installed on your device. I'm just going to go with the Cricut Sans font. I'll make it white. And then I just want to drag it up on my letter, and I'll need to resize it. And this is a nice preview of what size the name will cut in relation to the size of the ornament. This is going to be different for each of these initial ornaments because they're oriented differently. So you will need to play around with this a little bit. And some options for playing around with it are, the first thing that you can do is use the curve feature. So if your letter has a curve like this S does, you can drag that curved feature and it will curve your text for you. Another option you could do is you could drag your text up and then use these little handles on the ends to arrange your name in a sort of diagonal or another way to fit your letter. In either case, if you don't like how your letters are spaced after you do a curve or after you move your letters, let me show you a cool trick. See how we have that big space between the R and the A? We can click on Advanced, Ungroup to Letters, and now you can move each letter individually and get it right into position where you want it. After you've done that, any movement with your letters, see how they're all separate here in the Layers panel? It's important to select them all together again when you're happy with your letter arrangement, and then click Combine and Weld so that that name will cut together again. I'm not going to cut a name in this demonstration, but I did just want to show you that you have some options to personalize these with text if desired. So I've deleted off the name, and now we're just left with our 2 faux leather layers. I'll click the Make It button. I'm loading the material on a mat, and I need to mirror this mat because faux leather cuts in reverse. I also want to drag my shapes apart a little bit from the edges of the mat because we will be taping the faux leather down with blue painter's tape. And here I'll make a note of what size material I need to put on the mat so the letters cut completely. Looks like it's about 8 inches wide and 4 inches tall. Click Continue. And the setting I'm using is called Faux Leather Paper Thin. If you don't have a bookmark like a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. If you're using the Explorer Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to Custom before you can find this setting. If you're using the Cricut Joy Extra, I have a YouTube video about how to create a custom material setting for the Cricut Joy Extra to cut faux leather, and I'll leave a link for that for you. But I'm going to click Faux Leather Paper Thin and more pressure. And we already have our fine point blade loaded in the machine. So let's hop over to my overhead camera and we'll get our letters cut out and our ornament made. So I've already trimmed my faux leather down to that size I noted in the mat preview screen, and I'm going to place it pretty side down in the top left corner of my Strong Grip purple mat. I'll press it down with my fingers, and then I'm going to use some blue painter's tape to tape it down on all sides. The 2 steps of trimming the faux leather to be a smaller piece and also attaching the blue painter's tape really help us get good cuts because it reduces the ability of the faux leather to move around during the cut. So we have our faux leather paper thin setting with more pressure all ready to go. So we'll just load the mat into the Cricut and begin the cut. So the cut is complete, and the faux leather paper thin material setting is actually a double cut. But before we unload the mat, we want to check the cut because we can always repeat the cut as needed. So I'm just using my sharp weeding tool. I'm going to get up here in the edge and see if it looks like the cut went all the way through. If it did not, I can just press the cut button again to rerun the cut. If you're using the Cricut Joy, the option to rerun the cut will be on your screen in Design Space. But this cut looks good, so I'll go ahead and unload the mat. And we'll remove our ornament shapes. There's the front. And there's the back. And these will go together just like that. So now that we have our letter shapes cut out, it's a great time to use some small detailed scissors just to sort of go around the edge of the faux leather and just trim up any little fuzzies or strings that you might see, just so the edges of the ornament will be nice and neat. Then it's time to glue, and I mentioned that I would be sharing a technique with you to help get an ornament nice and flat with almost seamless edges, and the trick is to place our glued letter ornament underneath a heavy book for about an hour. So first we'll glue, and then we will let it dry nice and flat under the book. So I'm just using my Fabri-Tac, and I'm going to place glue on the back of one of the letters. You don't need to put glue on both. And I want to get close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge, because when we press this flat, the glue will naturally seep a little bit to the edge, and that'll help us get a really nice firm seal. Now, if you were going to put a name with heat transfer vinyl, you would want to press that heat transfer vinyl name onto the faux leather before you glue. And I use an Easy Press Mini to press heat transfer vinyl onto faux leather. I use the low setting and I press for about 10 seconds. You could also use a regular Easy Press set to about 265 degrees. So I just placed the front of the letter onto the back. And now I want to spend just a little time sort of adjusting this letter front and back so that we don't see the back or the front edges when we flip it over. You want to get this nice and arranged neatly. There we go. And then you just set it on your surface and place it under a heavy book for about an hour. We'll let this dry and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to finish off the ornament. So I'm going to check on the letter that we made together in just a second, but I wanted to show you two other letters I've already made. Let's see, I'll show you this one first. So this one is just a B, and I've glued that little floral pick to the B, and I'll show you how I do that on the S. But then I just used some ribbon. This is a 3/8 inch wide ribbon. This is just from a spool on Michaels, and it's as simple as just looping it on and then tying a very simple knot if you wanted to do that. And then I did also a green one, and here's a green buffalo plaid. And on this one, I used that color coordinated Sharpie marker to color the green edges all the way around. And it just gives it a nice finished look. On the white one, it's really not that big of a deal because white is part of the plaid. But on this one, it does add, a more finished look. If you do that, remember to do all the way around, including on the bottom and on the inside of any cutouts of the letters too. And on this one, I made a little bow and then a loop here, and I put the floral pick. So I'm going to show you how to do this little bow in the front. This is not my bow idea. I saw someone do it on Facebook and I thought it was really clever. So I figured out how to do it for the ornaments and I'm going to show you. So let's move our heavy book. And our S looks pretty good, front and back. Again, you might want to use that color coordinated red Sharpie or a black Sharpie to color up the edges. So I've cut some red ribbon. This is about 24 inches of ribbon, and let me show you how easy this is to do. So I'm just going to loop it like this, and I'm going to take my little loop part and I'm going to thread it through the hole on the ornament. So what this is going to do is create the loop in the back here. And then we're just going to tie a bow in the front, just a regular bow. So this is about, I would say, a 4-inch loop. And then here I'm just going to tie a very simple bow. I'm certainly not a bow expert, so I'm sure many of you are going to be much better at tying a beautiful bow on these ornaments, but I did just want to give you sort of an easy way to do it. So I'll just make my loop. Pull it through, and then you can adjust the size of the loops there on your bow. You pull that a little bigger. And then you can take some sharp scissors and cut your ribbon into pretty points at the end as well. There we go. So that's a very simple way to do it just with the letter and the ribbon. And let me show you if you want to attach the little floral pick. So as I mentioned, you don't want to use scissors for this. You will want to use some wire cutters. And I'm just going to cut the wires off at the base. And that gives us a relatively flat area to glue. And then I'm just using that Stick Fast Thick. Again, you could use hot glue. And let's see. So on the green one here, I actually glued it to the top of the bow, like that. I think for this one, I'm going to glue it over here, just so we have a different look. If I glue it over here, I think it looks less like an S. So I'll glue it over here on this side. So you have lots of options with these. You can add a name with heat transfer vinyl. As I mentioned, you could add a name with permanent vinyl and attach it to the faux leather. Faux leather is very versatile. So I'm just going to put my little stick fast glue there and I'll let that dry for a moment. This glue just takes a minute or two to dry. And that's it. Our pretty buffalo plaid initial ornaments are complete. I hope you like this project. If you want to see all of the 20 holiday faux leather crafts I've created for my faux leather crafting event, I'll leave a link to a playlist for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.